It looks awesome. Check this out. It looks so much better. Today's episode of Datsun 280Z build series, I'm gonna be swapping out these ugly 260Z 280Z taillights with a 240Z style taillight. So before we get started with the swap, let's talk a little bit about the difference between the two taillight versions. So here I got the 260Z 280Z style taillight, where the brake light is separate from the reverse light. To me, and this is personal preference, it kind of looks ugly. I also don't like the fact that there's chrome piece surrounding the brake light, kind of splitting the design in two. When you look at the 240Z taillight though, you got the brake lights and the blinker in one single enclosure with the reverse light integrated into the taillight assembly. So you get this like one nice piece instead of like three individual lights in the back of the car. What you need obviously is the tail light, but in addition you're gonna need a new tail light trim piece. I got this beautiful banged up used piece off eBay for pretty good price. Because the 240Z tail light trim piece comes in further into the license plate area, you're gonna need a 240Z license plate holder piece as well, which is a little narrower than the 260-280Z license plate holder. Now, what a lot of people do is retain the 260-280Z license plate holder and the license plate light piece here and chop this off by an inch or so. What I decided to do instead is to keep the 240Z tail light trim piece and use a 240Z license plate light update plate that I got from Skilled Automotive, and I'll show you how to install this too. So let's get started first by reconditioning this tail light because it's a little ugly, it's a little outdated, and I need to refinish this so it's nice and clean. Alright guys, so here's the deal. I'm gonna take this tail light inside the house and go ahead and start sanding it so that it's nice and clean. Alright, so here's a close-up of the 240Z taillight. As you can see, there's scuff marks going across. The center trim piece looks decent, but there is a lot of scratches that is visible. So what I'm going to do is clean this up by first using rubbing alcohol with paper towel. And I'm going to actually sand it down with 800 grit sandpaper, wet sand. And then do a 2000 grit wet sand, and then after that is all done and it's nice and clean, I'm going to spray it with clear coat to kind of give this a refresh. Alright guys, so the tail lights have been sanded, 800 grit, 2000 grit, wet sand, and now it's looking like this. Foggy, no problem, because after I clear coat it, it's gonna be nice and shiny again. Of course, I took out the bulbs for those of you who are wondering. And some of you might be like, CZero, why didn't you polish the tail lights? Well, that might work for newer cars. If you have like a 2015 or 2017, that might work for you. But for a taillight this old from the 70s, it's usually better to just do it right, go with the hard way, put in some elbow grease and go ahead and sand it down and then clear coat it. It will last you longer from my experience, and I have done this on many different taillights before. I have used this method to clear up taillights in the past, and from my experience, it has lasted longer than you would if you were to polish a taillight, which is more of a traditional way. Alright guys, here's day 2. Today we're gonna clear coat the taillights to finish them up. I'm using, this is very important, make sure to use non-yellowing UV resistant spray paint. Otherwise you're gonna be going back after the taillight has faded to only repeat the process again. So make sure you use a proper spray paint. Painting process super easy, right? Clear coating, you just do light coats, maybe 2, maybe 3 coats depending on how the finish comes out. After I finish the painting though, I'm gonna be going back wet sanding with 2000 grit so I get the nice smooth finish. Alright guys, so while the paint is drying on the tail light, which is about 24 hours, I'm gonna go ahead and get started on the car here. So first thing I'm gonna do is remove the interior trim towards the back of the car and remove everything so that I have access and kind of get an idea of what I need to cut up. And you guys weren't supposed to really see this yet, but this is just part of parts that I have purchased that's going to be installed on the 280Z. The reason why I just opened this is because I need to remove the tail light trim from the inside, and I actually might have to lift up the rear section here where the spare tire is supposed to be to get access to this plastic panel here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start removing everything. This trim should just kind of pop off after I remove the nuts and bolts. Alright guys, so I've started removing the plastic off the 280Z here. I removed the interior trim piece that is behind the tail light by undoing a bunch of Phillips screws that went in vertically. It's amazing how many Phillips screws are used in this car. It really tells you the era that this car was built. Kind of cool. But so I removed the interior piece, just kind of pushed it away. Lifted the trunk area here so I have full access, and here is the tail light. What I'm gonna do now is go ahead and remove the tail light by what looks like a 8mm nuts that's holding the tail light in. But one thing I realized is that the connector for the 280Z tail light is a little beefier than the one using the 240. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take these bulbs out, and hopefully it will be compatible with the 240Z tail light, so I don't have to swap the harness or even was spliced into the 240Z harness to make 240Z tail lights work. Alright guys, so the rear panel of the Z has been completely removed, and here's what I did. I traced the holes and the size of the tail light by using a USPS envelope. Thanks to USPS for this sponsorship that we didn't sign up for, as always. And what I'm gonna do is just take this template, put it up here, notch out the holes. As you can see, with the new 240Z tail light that's been widened, it's not gonna fit in the stock 280Z hole, so I'm gonna have to kind of notch it out a little bit here and then make another plate that's gonna seal this up nicely, because sometimes exhaust gas gets through the tail light area, which is a very common issue on these D cars. So I want to make sure this is blocked off and no exhaust fume is getting inside the cabin. So what I'm gonna do now is bust out my angle grinder as usual and get to work. Alright guys, so the car has been chopped up even more. I hate cutting up this beautiful car after how much time and money previous owner had spent on the car cleaning it up, but I don't like stock things. So as you can see, tail light fits in here nicely, and it's got a lot of wiggle room for me to play around with the tail light so that it fits in there perfectly. And the reason why I wanted to leave a lot of wiggle room in there is because the tail light shroud here does not fit in here perfectly. It might be a little hard to tell on camera, but there's a gap top left and bottom left here. And this trim piece, of course, doesn't fit perfectly. The trim piece wasn't built to precision, and the car itself, the chassis, wasn't built to precision either. So I have been kind of banging this trim piece around with hammer with my hand, and this hole that's supposed to line up doesn't line up either. It's supposed to just kind of get flushed to the surface, body of the surface here on the left side. Doesn't do that. There's a hole here that doesn't match up. The right side though matches up fine, so there's that. But I'm just gonna keep banging this out a little bit so that it fits nice on the car. I think I'm gonna do rivet holes here so that I can mount the plate to the car and then tail light to the car also. This is the front bumper that I took off from the Z, and the metal piece that is on the bottom side of the bumper is a perfect little plate to block off this hole right here. So what I did was created two plates, drilled the holes in it and riveted it with RTV between it, so it's nice and sealed, nice and secure, and this is going to protect the cabin from getting exhaust gas inside. Alright guys, here's the mock-up of how the trim piece looks like right now. Finally coming along nicely. Obviously, as you can see here, there's a couple gaps, dents, fitments that doesn't quite come in correctly, so I'm gonna go ahead and continue banging things in and out with a hammer the old school way. Okay, so one thing I want to show you here is this license plate bracket, right? I gotta take all this off. So this is the 240Z license plate bracket, and up here I have the 280Z license plate bracket. As you can see, the length is a little bit different. The length of the 240 up top is shorter, but surprisingly actually length on the bottom is wider. But this is not an issue for me because I'm gonna be mounting the 240Z license plate bracket like so, and using the Skiller license plate light fixture. So I'm just gonna fit this in and start playing with the fitment, make sure everything is nice and aligned, then fit the tail lights in position and get to spray painting the trim piece and hopefully come close to finishing over here. Alright guys, so here's a little update. I have installed these plates, sealed it, it looks nice. OEM, this is OEM now for CZeroMedia here. And then started playing with the passenger side. The tail lights in, the plates kind of in, but I'm playing with the driver's side, and I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna install this tail light. Now what I found out with this setup first is that the stock tail light has these closed end cap type hex nut, which is M5 in size, and this is embedded inside the plastic here. So basically, once you mount this on the body of the car, you got the panel here and then the bolt that gets inserted into this closed end hex nut setup. The issue is, because I'm gonna be adding a custom gasket here, I don't really know how long the bolt needs to be, and for two, I can't exactly line up these holes to the car when I can't see where the holes are because it's capped off, right? It's another thing if I want to use OEM 240Z taillight gasket, which is like $80. There's no way I'm going to spend $80 on piece of rubber. It's not a functional piece, so I'm gonna do something custom there too. I'm gonna show you that. But because of that reason, and I can't use a gasket to line up the holes, I'm just gonna have to take these little guys out. So what I ended up doing on the passenger side was I popped out all of these closed end nuts, and then because conveniently these housings are still hex shaped, I can insert these open-ended nuts on the outside as a stopper, with the bolt coming in and protruding past the nut. So that's the exact same method I'm gonna do on the driver's side. I'm gonna pop these nuts out, line it up on the car with the trim, and make sure everything is set and straight. I'm gonna drill some holes, and then I'm gonna work on the trim piece, the center piece, and the Skiller license plate light kit installation. Alright guys, and there's one thing I forgot to mention after I clear coated the tail light. So after you clear coat a tail light, right here you can see that is what's called orange peel. It looks like orange peel literally on the surface, right? That little dotted kind of golf ball effect there. You don't want that. So what I'm gonna do now is wet sand this with a 2000 grit sandpaper and then buff it, polish it, and then wax it. But I'm not gonna really show you the process because I'm sure for one, you know how to do this, and for two, there's like a million videos on how to do this in detail. So I have spent like 2 hours just test fitting the tail light shroud, make sure everything fits nice and tight the way I want it to be. As you know, these cars are not built to perfection off the line. With 30-40 years being passed already, these cars are starting to bend. It wasn't manufactured straight, and these taillight shrouds also are not manufactured straight. So you have to do some bending, banging, and making sure it fits your car the way it should. Here's where we're at now. We got this license plate light OEM that's supposed to go on here like so, but as you can see, that is huge, ugly, and kind of outdated. So what I did was purchased a license plate light delete kit from Skilled. What this does, and it comes with LEDs also, that's in here. I went with amber, and I'll show you that later once it's all fitted. But what this plate does is it eliminates the ugly stock license plate light holder. So this would simply snap in here from the underside. So let me just fit that in real quick and show you what that would look like. Alright, so as you can see, it is going to sit nice and flush to the OEM trim piece, so you can't even see that it's down there. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and drill some holes in the bracket and use these rivets that the kit came with so that these two plates are put together. You just need to drill 3 holes like so, and then rivet that in. What I'm gonna do actually is, before I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and just paint the stock license plate holder as well as the tail lights so that everything is good to go. As for the vehicle side, I started riveting these rivet nuts so that I can put the stock tail light in. So with those rivet nuts, I can put the stock tail light trim piece in like so. And then after that, I can come in, and I bought this from Lowe's. You can just simply snap this into the rivet nut that I drilled into the car. So it's gonna have nice flush OEM finish to the whole thing.
First off, let me thank you, Camp, for one of the hottest tracks I ever heard. Goddamn, that's downright rugged track, down south, loving that feeling, that catching them vibes, yeah. Goes deep, I can feel it through my system. Bass kicking, yeah, baby, get some. I'm riding down this whole song while I'm swerving on my drive, yeah, yeah. Don't stop, got my foot on the pedal. So hot that I could just rap off to the thump while I bump it up, yeah, yeah. Now you can't find me while I'm driving, driving, yeah. You can't find me on the road. You ain't gonna catch me when I'm flying. No, no, no. Don't ever forget that I told you so. Yeah, yeah.
Alright guys, so here is a quick update with the tail light. I painted the, or should I say primered, left and right side tail light shrouds, and then painted the center piece, the license plate holder, satin black, because OEM is actually more of a grayish color, as you can see over there. but I wanted to try something different, so I went with black. And so far I like the black look. Under the bracket holder here, you can see that I have riveted the skillered license plate bracket light mod plate piece in place, and it looks OEM. It looks nice and flush. I'm actually quite surprised how nicely it fits in there. So as for that, I'm gonna be installing these LED amber. You can get amber or white. I got amber to keep the retro look, or at least try to. I'm just gonna mount into these holes here, nice and flush. I'll show you that in a bit. And as for these panels, I have used rivet nuts so that I can have a M4 bolt go in there with a washer to give it a nice flush look. Now this is not 100% tightened, so it looks like it's floating still. That's okay. For those of you who have not seen me use the rivet nuts, I use a tool like this. Basically, you get different size rivet nuts here, right? What I used was a M4 rivet nut. What you do is screw this into the rivet nut tool here, which gets mounted to a drill like so. And this piece would spin clockwise. As this spins clockwise, the internal mechanism would contract this piece, which in turn brings the rivet nut all the way to the edge of the device, which then compresses the rivet nut. So compressing the rivet nut, therefore expanding the bottom piece and putting the rivet nut in place between the sheet metal. You guys have all seen me use it in a previous project, so there's that. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna mount the LED lights inside here, and then paint everything up. And for the first time in my life, I'm installing something chrome onto the car, because as you can see here, there's a little gap between the shroud and the tail light, and stock this is supposed to be chrome, and I think I like the black and chrome contrast that's gonna be going on in the back. So what I did was I went ahead and purchased this chrome trim piece from Advanced Autos. I never thought there'll be a day where I'll be purchasing one of these to install on my car, but this case is a little different. I want to install the chrome so it kind of flows with the rest of the car and fits the era of the vehicle correctly. Alright guys, so this project was supposed to take me like a day, maybe 2 days at most, but honestly it's been like 5 days since I started. But I wanted to make sure I do it right, I wanted to make sure it looks good, and I didn't want to come back and redo anything, right? Do it right once. So, tail lights are in, I put the bulbs back in, the bulk of plate looks great, everything is sealed, and here's what I did. Because the stock plugs look like this for the license plate lights, what I did was, after I installed the LED lights, I terminated the connectors, crimped the connectors so that I can retain the stock connectors here, and also use M8 size rivet nuts to relocate the license plate location. Because let me just show you, the stock license plate gets mounted on these holes here, which when I show you later, looks very low. It doesn't like line up with the tail lights, and it just looks awkward. So what I did was I brought it up higher by mounting the plates to the license plate bracket instead of the vehicle side. So what I'm gonna do now is the fun part. I'm just gonna put everything together, show you guys what it looks like, and I should be done with the job. Alright guys, and we are finally done with the taillight installation. Took forever, but it looks awesome. Check this out. It looks so much better than a 280Z taillight that I had before. Let me just show you. I finished it up with these fancy washers and countersunk screw. I gotta get one more for the centerpiece here, but this is what the taillights look like right now. The trim piece came out great. My AutoZone trim special looks OEM, honestly. I can't tell any difference. And that's it for today's episode, guys. Let me know what you think about the 240 taillights on my 280Z. Do you like the look better? Is it cleaner? Would you do it to your 260 280Z? Let me know, and make sure to hit the like button if you haven't done so already, and hit the subscribe button if you want to see more episodes on this Z, because in the next episodes I'm gonna be installing new wheels.